Don't you really want to know?
I was wondering who the father of my baby was.
All right, let's take a look. I'm solely searching for the father of your baby. Oh, it's the one that's very unpleasant, okay?
Okay.
And he's also the one that had another girlfriend while he was sleeping with you.
Yes, he did.
Yep, that's him. That's the daddy. But you knew that.
I wasn't sure.
I don't know how. The baby looked just like him.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so you were in denial because he has a funny little chin, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, and the baby have that same little chin. The cards can reveal things that you will never see by yourself. Call me now for your free tarot reading.
So we're going to be talking about twins, but not just any twins.
Come play with us, Daddy.
The two very special twins, according to my theory, the McCartney twins. And I've been stuck on this theory for a while. I don't think it's a real popular theory when it comes to Beatles conspiracies because it's not one that's really, it's not really talked about, but it should be, which is really weird because when you go on Google, you type in conspiracies and, Beatles conspiracies, it's usually always about Paul McCartney. And, to be honest, I do talk a lot about Paul McCartney too, and because he's a very important part in the whole Beatles conspiracy, because it's very much bigger than people realize sometimes. Because it was replaced, and this is a thing that has never happened in the music industry, which it does happen a lot. He's not the first artist to be replaced. In fact, there's quite a lot that we could talk about, really. The theory, the twin theory for me kind of starts actually not with Paul McCartney, but it starts with a guy named Mike McCartney and Mike McGear. Now, for a long time, I thought Mike McGear, like most of us, bought the story that he was the brother of Paul McCartney.
They sort of say the story and then they say, brother of former Beatle Paul in all the articles. I was thinking of jigging it to say former brother of Beatle Paul.
We're going to delve into the mythology aspect, the Greek mythology, the meaning of the Gemini, and why it ties into Paul McCartney and my twin theory. I found this one article really quick we'll watch because I have some pictures to show. I have like a little video clip to show you to kind of explain the whole Gemini backstory thing. In fact, why don't we come to that video first?
Gemini is the third sign in the zodiac and is active sometime between May 21st and June 20th, placing it between Taurus and Cancer. The name Gemini is Latin for twins, which is apparently what the symbol is supposed to be. Speaking of, Mercury, the Roman god for Hermes, not the planet, is said to be the ruler of Gemini, and the reason this is relevant is that Geminis are believed to have a connection with the skill trades and are associated with hands, the twin instruments of skill and accomplishment. Anyone who's seen my episode on Hermes knows that he also had a reputation for his craftsmanship and musical ability, having invented the lyre, so it makes sense that he'd be associated with Gemini. If you're a Gemini, then the skills I just mentioned are best exercised and stimulated by having a sparring partner, hence the twin symbol. Now, your partner doesn't have to be your twin. It could be a friend, coworker, or even an enemy. The point is that when somebody else gets involved, you get better, whether that's from them helping you practice or your competitive side coming out. Another creative way of interpreting the twin symbol is it may represent the ego and shadow, another Jungian concept like the collective unconscious we talked about with Pisces. You see, the ego always strives to take the conscious path that's found in the individual will or in society at large, while the shadow is the hidden side that represents the values and desires you've repressed or refused to acknowledge. From time to time, the shadow manages to creep out of the darkness in Gemini title. Both titles are epithets of Nergal, a major Babylonian god of plague and pestilence who is also king of the underworld. Over in China, the Gemini constellation is replaced by another called Jingshu, which means well. The two constellations have virtually nothing to do with each other besides occupying the same space, but you can see how the shapes are pretty similar. Now, when it comes to Greek mythology, there are two possible interpretations for which figures Gemini is supposed to represent. The aforementioned Castor and Polydeuces, or Pollux, are by far the most popular option and were referred to as the sons of Zeus, though the nature of their conception makes experts question if they really should be considered twins.
Basically what I got from that, here's why I believe now there are McCartney twins. There's a lot of things to point in that direction, with the exception of the things I've covered in the past of, the Michael McGear thing, and then we'll get into that as well too. But here's some things I took from that video and from the research here, which is Greekerthanthegreeks.com. So you have Pollux and Castor, okay? Now Pollux, of course, the Gemini twins. Pollux, which is funny because Pollux sounds a lot like Paul, means crown. And you have Castor, which is, ironically, it means beaver. So you have Paul and who I believe to be Michael. Now, I don't believe Michael McGear, and I've said this before, I don't believe that is the true brother of Paul McCartney. And there's a lot of reasons why I believe, and I'll show you. So let's get rid of this video first, because we're going to go back and forth between some images here. Some really important images that I think we should see, or you should see. And I'll explain the baby picture in a minute. These aren't my children. So you have the twin heads of the Gemini, who are the sons of Zeus, right? Gemini, of course, we know is the third sign. And Mercury, who is also known as Hermes, the messenger god, is the god that rules over Gemini, okay? Now, Mercury is also known by the name Apollo. And, of course, McCartney, in later years, went by an alias named Apollo C. Vermouth, okay? So, little connection there. Gemini, as the video said, represents the two skilled trade of the hands, okay? Now, this could mean instruments. This could mean tools of any kind. An instrument is basically a tool, right? And Hermes, of course, is the one that invented the lyre, right? And I have a lyre here, actually. I'll take off my wall, and I will show you what a lyre looks like. That kind of lyre, not the other kind of lyre. Okay, so basically twin instruments of skill and accomplishment, okay? So when you look at the pictures of the McCartney babies, okay, Mike and Paul. Now, McGear here, of course, you could see has blonde hair. The one with all the, things on the picture, because I took it from Google. You'll see that here, I'm not sure the exact years, okay, but what's weird, first of all, is that there are no pictures taken of the McCartney twins between like the ages of, let's say, what you see here in front of you when they were infants to like about 20 years old, okay, which is very weird. Because every family, even in the fucking 1900s, were taking pictures of their creepy-looking kids, and then now they use them in horror movies, right? So they were taking pictures of their kids all the time. And you can even rationalize and say, well, yeah, how can you say they're twins just because they dress the same? Everybody was dressing their kids the same back then. Well, I don't know if that's really true, first of all. And second of all, it's not even just the clothes at the end of the day. Look at the two pictures here. One is fake and one is real, okay? Taken probably a couple years apart from each other, seemingly, okay? Now, there are two problems, or there are many problems, actually, but let's just go through the first few to start. On the left, okay, the two McCartney children, supposedly, the one on the bottom is made to look like the more adult McGear that we're used to today, okay? The one you see just to the left of that. Now, the eye color is off. Now, this is a picture that I have done nothing with, that I'm not the first one to use, that a lot of people have used, and I've even talked about it before. The eye color on McCartney and Mike are different. They should be switched. Paul's eyes should be brown and Mike should be blue, because, as you can see here, this gentleman's eyes are very blue. Nothing brown about them, right? So I don't believe we're looking at, first of all, the real Mike McCartney. So I believe an actor was also used to play the character to hide the real identity of Mike. Now, again, at the children's pictures, you see how they look way more similar to the one on the right. Okay, their hair's cut exactly the same. It's like it has the same parting, it looks like. They have the same droopy eyes, even though Paul's technically is more droopy than Mike's. But yet in this picture on the left, baby Mike, supposedly, first of all, his mouth is fucking ginormous, and it looks like a baby Jaws, you know, the shark and the Bond villain, like. And it's funny because Castor and Pollux, you have the two signs, one meaning the crown, Pollux is the crown, and Castor is the beaver. This is so look at his fucking teeth. It pretty much fits the Gemini twins right there, the beaver, and you got the king, Paul, the crown, who was revered as like the talent, right? The one who wrote Yesterday, and the good-looking one, who I believe the twins were used, the real twins, because we don't really see a lot of pictures or video of McGear and McCartney together, especially, or just in general, until like the mid to later 60s, or maybe like a little bit earlier than that, okay? So it's really hard to tell, you know, to see if there's no pictures or any evidence in between, like especially for the teenage years. Where are the teenage photos? It's really weird. And why are the eye colors different? It's, you know, considering that, I don't know, in this picture, Paul's eyes are definitely brown, right? Definitely brown. And here, they're blue. Well, that could mean one of two things. One, the photo is a fake, but, I mean, whether it is or not, it's still a photo that's widely considered, you know, it's widely used. It's seen everywhere, like on the official Beatles sites even. It's an official Beatles photo, you know, for publicity. But it looks so much different than the character on the left. Not only is it the eye color, but the eyebrows are different, and the beaver teeth. You know, even though the child picture was most likely manipulated and faked, we know that adult McGear did have like beaverish teeth and a long nose, right? But his Paul never had like a really long nose. But here on the photo on the right, the more I look at it, the nose is like on the right is sticking out or pointed out, whether, you know, like almost like down, whereas the one on the left is almost up and just slightly sticking out, right? I mean, the teeth, the eyes, the hair's all basically the same because you're considering the, you know, the twin theory, right? According to my theory, you know, Mike, no matter how you see Mike as like the fake Mike McGear or what I'm showing you, right? But both had to be good at instruments, right? Mike McGear even was an instrumentalist apparently. So it makes sense for my theory because you have the two brothers, right? Both played bass, you know, and then and this isn't even factoring in William Campbell, right? Because that's a whole nother story because he comes, I believe, according to my theory, later on, right? Hi, Roger Driscoll. How are you doing, by the way? So, I want to show you some numbers, too, really quick. I know this may seem kind of like all over the place, but it'll connect in the end, I promise. You know, I don't really do a lot of formal presentations like other channels, so bear with me, guys. Here's another photo of supposedly McGear, which looks more like what we're used to seeing today, and who I believe to be William Campbell, and why I don't think it's Mike McCartney or Paul McCartney, the real brother, right, is because in the photo on the right, not only when they stand, which I don't assume they're standing on boxes or anything, they're standing at the same, you know, floor height, or level, they look pretty much almost like they're the same height. Maybe Mike is a tiny bit taller. But yet, why on the left, you know, from years before 66, is Paul towering over him? I mean, and another example to show why there might be multiple people playing the part of these characters, not just like 2 or possibly 3, is because here in this photo, which I believe could possibly be doctored as well, it shows you that Mike is taller, but way more taller than here on the right than this Paul. It's because there's not one, but there are, or 2, but there are 3. You have William Campbell, and you have who I believe to be Mike, the real twin brother. And here's another thing, going back to the kids, and I have to bring this point up a lot too. Now I got to bring up the pictures of these random babies that I got online. I hope I don't have anyone knocking on my door, but
Well, with all that, it sounds like you've got a pretty big night planned, huh?
you'll see why. So look. Now I'm going to show you an example of kids that are a year and a half apart and 2 kids that are the same age, twins, okay? Now look at the picture on the left here of these children and the mother with her children. Which one looks like they are twins, and which one looks like they are 1.5 years apart? I'll give you some time while I edit in Jeopardy music later for the video part of the stream. But not too much because of copyright infringement. So obviously, it should be obvious, but because of common knowledge, that the 2 children on the top are a year and a half apart. And I did research, and I got the picture from like some marketing toy website, and I plugged it into Google, and clearly, and I've had a brother, so I mean, it's just it's common knowledge that those kids you should be able to tell that they're a year and a half apart. Whereas on the bottom, they're clearly twins. Now on the right, a really early picture of Mike and Paul. Right, first of all, Mike has blonde hair, which magically got blonder over time, which he's the only person with blonde hair to have that happen to him. My hair used to be that color when I was that baby's age, right? But now it's dark. So the kids on the right here, do they really look a year and a half apart, or do they look like they were born at the same time and that they are twins? Do they look a year and a half apart like the babies, like the 2 children up here, above the mother with the 2 twins? Paul's birthday supposedly was June 18th, 1942. Mike McCartney's birthday, January 7th, 1944. That's almost 2 years. That's a huge difference. Where is the kid's blonde hair? Why are they both dark? They both have droopy eyes, but of course, Paul had more droopy eyes. And where is his big jaw's mouth? Where is it? So now do you see a little bit now why I think we actually have twins here? Because not only do the spiritual and the astrological signs point to it, but the literal signs point to it as well. So it looks like my theory is getting stronger here every day, but certain channels out there don't want to acknowledge or even think about the theory. They just want to take a couple pictures and be like, oh, some person faked these photos, therefore the theory holds no water. Bullshit, my friend. 2 different Pauls here. It's not the same one. And one of these pictures was taken in 65. I think the one on the left was like 65 or 60. Yeah, 65. And the one on the right was like 63 or 64. I'm like, what the fuck are we looking at here?
Oh my God!
Rich Evans. But yeah, there you go. It's like all the signs are connected inevitably one way or the other, but literally here, when you bring up January, yeah, Mike and Paul, both January. Whether you think the Mike McGear is the literal one or not, Mike McGear is playing the part of Mike McCartney. The real Mike McCartney probably had the same fate as the Paul. Maybe not. Maybe totally different things happened, which I'm sure they did. I don't think foul play was ever involved. I think if anything, it was a car accident or early retirement. Which you can translate that however you want, but Paul Lux. I mean, come on, it's all there. But, other channels like say there's nothing here within this theory. I think this is where the real conspiracy begins. And I think William Campbell plays into the third phase of this whole thing. Everything is in threes, guys. Everything is in threes. Like, as far as phases, there's always phase 1, 2, phase 3. It really makes sense. When I first discussing the twin theory, I wasn't convinced. Yeah. Know your realm. I wasn't even fully convinced when I read the Miles Mathis thing, to be honest. I had to look through a shitload of pictures. I had to watch all the movies again. I may have been wrong on some things with like Hard Day's Night and Help, but it's still, we're looking at 3 Pauls, guys. We're not looking at 2 anymore. It's you cannot convince me otherwise at this point. We're looking at 3 phases of Paul's here. The real one, and then when his brother Mike took over, which, don't get me wrong, and I've said this before, Mike I still think was used in studio as far as vocals. Like, I've played before. Long Tall Sally's the best example. I'm gonna tell him, my little child. It sounds very much like what Campbell was doing on Sgt. Pepper. But even if you compare Sgt. Pepper, the opening, it was 20 years ago today, to Long Tall Sally, is still very different. And I can get into the technicalities, like as far as like who sings sharp and who sings more flat. But both of the brothers, and I showed in that Wings of Pegasus video, even though he tends to think there are not more than one McCartney. He doesn't really believe in the whole conspiracy, which is fine. One of the singers that you compare, if you like, I think he was playing Hey Jude, and then he played I Saw Her Standing There, maybe another one, and then he played Yesterday. And there were inconsistencies with all the singing because one vocalist tended to sing more sharp, and one vocalist tended to sing more flat, and one vocalist sang it pretty much in the middle. Guess who that was? William Campbell. He was the most polished and refined of the Pauls, of the twins. It's like when they could, I don't know, the whole LSD thing could really play into a part of why it went into a phase 3, okay? I'm absolutely sure that everything, and I've said it before because you really can't not say it when knowing what I know now and, what you've learned today. Everything is planned and everything's connected, basically, right? Even 9/11 happened on 9/11. The event happened on 9/11. Oh, my God. Yeah, so let's see what else people are saying. Yeah, how can this beaver look like this beaver? I mean, or better yet, because, okay, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Move, babies. Fuck out of here. Daddy. Like, okay, let's even take... let me get that baby picture back. Where is that damn baby picture? All right, because really, I know I have another good example, too. Actually, let me bring up another one. Here's the earliest picture that they have of McGear and McCartney together, okay? I'm going to... It was right here, yes, I remember, like it was yesterday. Right here. It's the earliest one you can find. Now, from before that, we don't have any pictures, any video, no nothing. So, okay, so we have the twins over here. They both have dark hair, and then magically, like 10 something years later, now as an adult, his hair gets lighter with blonde hair. That automatically should be the final nail in the coffin. Like, that should be the smoking gun, right? I think I have a lot of smoking guns today. Practically, I'm out of fucking ammo. I have so many smoking guns over here. That's the earliest picture that I found on record. After the pictures of them being children on the right here. And now even this one right here, and I'll say it again. Oh my God, there's so much teeth in the way. Get it out. Let's clean this up. Let's clean it up. That's quite a mess. Now, let's look at these two then, all right? All right, let's look at these right here. Now, these pictures, okay, were supposedly taken a year or two apart, okay? Give me a fucking break. They should have fixed the eye color at least. Or, I don't know, maybe they're telling you something subtle. subtly. I don't know. But this is why I've been stuck on this theory and not really focusing on, the narrative that usually just keeps going around and that's always talked about, is because there is always more to it. There's always more